Well, the community is broad. We are all like makers, hackers, students, etc. But like, who put this together? We have also kind of a broad group of people. We have the board that runs the organization. We have all the organizers who actually do all the hard work. I'm one of the people on the board, but not an organizer.
You got lucky.
The badge makers who do also a lot of hard work, and then everyone else, the hackers that do what hackers do. They make shit work. All right, so we have some organizational changes this year, which are kind of interesting. So now, after lots of hard work that the BSides board has done, principally John, we are now a 501c3 nonprofit in the eyes of the federal government, which means that we can accept tax-deductible donations that are not in kind. So that is super exciting, at least for me.
It's exciting for me too, because now on the box of like filing taxes, I can just say, yes, we're exempt, and I file. It's really great.
And anytime you want, it doesn't have to just be around here. You can donate us money and write it down on your taxes. It's fantastic.
So because we're a nonprofit, if your employer has a matching contribution, we could also get extra money.
That is also true. Many employers do matching contributions. So as I alluded to earlier, we have the BSides Board of Directors. We have a Google group where we actually talk about things. We have board meetings every month, except for this month because it was the Wednesday before BSides. And you guys are all welcome to call in, although at least for board meetings, it's mostly be quiet. I'm going to have Topher talk about the CFP process, but we had, once again, a better CFP process than ever before.
That's right. Oh, God, I have to stand up and talk. All right.
Oh, this is bullshit. You get to see the slides right in front of you.
You had them in front of you. You had your phone. So it's not without a proper 101 talk, without actually talking about what makes the conference, part of what makes the conference so great, and that's all of the wonderful speakers that have came up to give talks, to give workshops, and to present themselves and show what they're doing to the world. So this year, the CFP process, we actually did a lot differently, and I'll get into that, but we also received more submissions than ever this year. We had in the 3 digits for the first time, which was really wonderful, but it also made the job exceptionally difficult to curate and decide what we wanted to take in this year. We had 2 rounds. Round 1 closed on the 15th, and round 2 closed on the 15th. Basically, by round 1, we had already had so many high-quality content submissions that round 2 was even more exceptionally difficult. So this is kind of in homage to, if you want to present at conferences, particularly ones that are growing in capacity, like this one, we have 800 people here now. Submit stuff early, get it into the review board process. People have more time to look at it, give feedback, and usually a better chance of getting up and presenting your work.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Joe's here now.
Hi.
This is
and
Joe.
Another thing, we gave people who submitted the first round and were not accepted in the first round, we kept them in for the second round, but we also gave them feedback on why they weren't accepted. And of the people who took that feedback, revised their submission, and resubmitted, I think 80% of them made it in the second round.
Yep.
Where it was like 20% that trickled through to the second round. Yep. So. Yeah, just I think that was a slight change that goes a long way in towards what we're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of all of that feedback, we actually had a CFP Review Board this year for the first time after 8 years of being a conference. Moving into the community at large, we started to realize that due to the fact that we're getting hundreds of submissions now, we wanted to be able to give people individualized feedback. That wasn't manageable with just 1 or 2 people being the body of curating all of that. So we actually recruited local security experts to help us go through all of those submissions, and they took a lot of their personal time in order to look at all of those, provide individual feedback, and give Joe and I recommendations as to how to make the conference what it is and who we accepted. So huge thanks to the wonderful work of everybody on the screen. We had Joe, we had Maggie, Tim Morgan, Case, Marion, myself, Jesse, Michael, Forrest, and Emily. really help us out with this. So big round of applause for everybody that helped out. And speaking of speakers and not the kind that play music, like I said, we had so many submissions this year, and it really was a lot of work for people on the review board. So if you run into somebody, please thank them and talk to them about submitting and getting yourself up on stage. So with that, we're going to transition out of Office Deksha, who's going to talk about the Badgers.
All right, they work, don't they? I sure hope so. They all passed QA on Wednesday night, so. All right, so what do we have here? This is our wonderful badge this year. So we have around 36 parts on here. Mostly they're LEDs. We are Charlie-plexing the yellow LEDs. So Charlie-plexing is you use few pins to drive a whole bunch of LEDs. Then we're doing pulse width modulation to change the brightness and the color on the RGB LEDs. So the microcontroller we're using is an ATtiny 861. I wrote all the firmware in libavrc. No Arduinos were harmed during the process. I'm an electrical engineer, so I'm not allowed to use Arduinos. At least that's what academia told me. So this year we have USB programming via micronucleus. You'll need a script to run the programmer for that. Otherwise, there's an ICSP header, so you can do direct programming through that. The cost was pretty low this year. We got the BOM to be about $5.50 per board, which is pretty low compared to previous years, I think. Mm-hmm. This was also the most complex layout we had, so it made things more difficult. This year we are also featuring shitty add-ons. So the hearts have the headers for the shitty add-ons. They're press fit, so the normal is 0.1 inch spacing. So these are 0.11 inch, so you don't have to solder. You should just be able to push them in and it'll hold. And this is completely open source hardware, so the layout, schematic, bill of materials, firmware is all on the GitHub link, and you can go there and hack the badge. So how did this happen? Back for DEF CON, I heard about the shitty add-ons, so I decided to make my own shitty add-on, featured up there for DC503, the Portland DEF CON group. So basically I took the same concept, the art, same LEDs, and a similar microcontroller and made it bigger and added some more functionality to it. So with hardware, we follow a waterfall. There's no Agile, Scrum, Jira crap with hardware. So basically it's an idea, figure out what parts you need, throw a schematic together, make up some art, do the layout in KiCad, then make a prototype, fix your mistakes on the prototype, then do a final build. No second prototype because we do this last minute, right? Pro tip is definitely make more than one prototype and have more time in the development process. I think we did this in about 3 months. So the tools I used was Inkscape with this plugin called SVG to Shingen. It basically allows you to do all the layout artwork in Inkscape, then export to KiCad, so you can do the copper layer, silkscreen layer, solder mask inside of a vector arts program, then export that to something KiCad can understand. Then in KiCad, this is the tool I used for doing the actual schematics and circuitry stuff. Altogether, this took probably over 200 hours to do. It's very laborious. And during the process, a lot of mistakes were made. Not all of them were necessarily caught. I did things like mirroring footprints and shorting some of the LEDs to ground. So thank you, Joe, for catching those mistakes. And also, I think the blue and the green LED pins were mislabeled, so I had to fix that in firmware, which is pretty common for hardware mistakes to be fixed in firmware. If you've ever dealt with CPU development, they fix those. So big thanks to OshPark. They sponsored the circuit board as well as the assembly of the boards this year. Then that's the first time OshPark has done board assembly. Normally they just do PCBs, and we have to source the manufacturing to some other company. By them doing this, it really helped us out financially, so big thanks to OshPark.
So Osh Park also, like we were there. They used us as a test vehicle because they started a new like fab option. So they just announced it Thursday, and we were the beta test for them to go and figure out how they're going to work with this fabrication partner. So we were lucky to benefit from that, and Osh Park's generosity yet again. They've donated thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of PCB expenses over the past several years. So thank them.
Yes, and they're not here today because they are currently with the vendor they're working with to finalize more plans. So hooray! So I'd like to thank Joe Grand for kind of starting this whole entire badge life stuff. So back in 2006 is when the first DEF CON electronic badge was made, and so that kind of got the ball rolling for all this craziness. I'd like to thank Joe for helping with the layout and review and getting the micronucleus bootloader for the board. Rootkiller for helping with the micronucleus and other programming. Myself for doing the largest amount of the board work. Then we had a bunch of volunteers Wednesday night hammering out the PCBs. Basically, we had one panel about yay big that had 2 badges on it, and we have 500 electronic badges. So that was a manual process of taking hammers and chisels to pound out the badges. So that was quite some work there, and everyone that did the programming and stuffing the badges into the bags.
Hey, it's our turn.
Wait,
we have
no.
to stand though.
I guess it's my turn.
Well,
So I'll do the.
so now we're going to transition into, so none of you now, after this, you're not going to need to read the website to know what's going on, because we're going to tell you.
Well, before we do that, like I really want to say, as like the former badge maker and like Office Dutchet's hair is still on fire, and he's still like shell shocked from the experience of like the last week, but he did a phenomenal job, and he's definitely doing it next year.
He just said yes.
Just don't let him know that once he utterly catastrophically fails, we won't make him do it again. You keep succeeding, you keep getting the job back.
That's right.
Speaking of which, if you notice your badge is kind of blinking but not blinking all the way, try using USB power. Yeah.
But take the battery out first.
Yes, please.
All right, you just have to do the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, no.
Okay.
No, you do it.
Okay. All right, so we have an InfoSec quiz show. We've done this, I think, before, and I think we did this before as like a Hacker Jeopardy thing. But you need to sign up. There is. Oh man, you can't click here.
You can't click here. You actually have to go to the website for this one. I lied.
You have to go to the BSides website, which it is there. And this is great.
The quiz show is awesome. It's ran by Steve, and he's a huge gamer, dungeon master in D&D, and he's really good at coming up with contests and quiz criteria. So definitely go sit in on this. There's going to be people up on stage. It's like a tamer version of like Hacker Jeopardy at DEF CON, because obviously we're in the convention center and people. I can't say any more than that.
You have to keep your clothes on.
Yeah, you have to keep your clothes on, and hopefully people aren't as
You don't have to be sober.
You don't have to be sober, but it's also not DEF CON. We also have for the first year this year OSINT CTF for missing persons. So we were approached by Trace Labs this year to run this event. They've had tremendous success with it at other conferences. It's essentially a competition that's going to take place tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the event room. And it's open source intelligence to find actual missing people utilizing like FBI databases and stuff. And everything's basically using legal means to search the internet for missing people. And there's flags and stuff that you can capture, and they're going to walk you through like what databases to search for, awesome like Google Dorks to look for people, and it should be a really good time, and we're super excited to have them here for it. They're a startup out of Toronto, I believe, so they traveled all the way here just to run this event for us, so super stoked. We also have for the first year this year, you might have, if you've seen it in the event room already, there's a big bin for a backpack drive for foster youth. So every conference that people tend to go to, including this one, people tend to like give out backpacks and things of that nature that nobody actually really wants, and they get thrown in the trash. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of backpacks in your closet from various conferences that you're never going to use. Bring those in and let's get them donated and have them go towards a good cause. So the bins are going to be in the event room all weekend. We're going to ensure that they get to the right people. And yeah, bring in your backpacks and
bring in your shitty black hat backpack that you never wanted in the first place. And it's going to go to some kid, and they're going to think, "What's that?" And you're going to make the next hacker out there.
That's right. They're going to Google what black hat is and be like, "Oh, this is amazing." We also have Karmageddon this year. This is actually a really popular event in recent years. It's caused a lot of awesome ruckus, and people have gotten permabanned from Reddit. So sign up for Karmageddon and try to harvest all that karma. And if you get banned from Reddit, you probably get a pretty cool prize. We also have lightning talks this year, so we unfortunately had some last-minute cancellations. And while Joe and I were thinking of how we handle that, it's like, why don't we just do lightning talks? We haven't done it before. We're going to try it out this year. So we have about 10 to 12 slots for it. We're going to do 5-minute cutoffs for talks. I'm going to be emceeing that, so come track me down during the conference, during the BSides PDX 101 panel. This is where I wave. Or in the event room, because I'll primarily be over there as one of the CTF organizers to come find me and sign up. So far, I've got 2 people on the list. So if you're interested, come find me. Going kind of in tune to Jessica Payne's keynote and the opportunity and sponsorship aspect of getting people out there and making people known, this is a really good opportunity to get on stage and just talk about whatever you want for 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be security. It can be policy. It can be a cool project that you're working on or anything. Just get up on stage, talk for 5 minutes, and get your ideas out there. Come find me.
You can do this.
You can do it. So now transitioning, and this is something that you can boo me off stage because I'm actually this more slides than probably needed. But I've been running the BSides Portland CTF for the last 3 years now, and let's talk about it. So if you're not familiar with CTF, it's always important to go over terms. So Capture the Flag is a computer security competition. It's basically you hack on vulnerable binaries, web challenges, solve forensics puzzles, and things of that nature to find flags. And those flags you concatenate to a leaderboard, and that earns you points, and you can see your rank and compete against peers in this sort of hacker Olympics, so to speak. A lot of CTFs are actually pretty intimidating and a little bit overly challenging, especially for events such as BSides, where we try to keep all of the challenges somewhat introductory at the beginning, and as you progress through the levels, they get harder, much like a Jeopardy board would. So we very intentionally try to make it so that if you've never played CTF before, if you've never hacked a web challenge, or you've never done a buffer overflow on a binary, come play in the CTF room. We'll get you started. We'll tell you the tools, and we'll show you the tips and tricks to succeed. And you can cat your first flag if you've never done anything. So definitely come find us and definitely come play. This year we did 12 challenges across 4 domains. So last year we did a 4x4 board, and we realized that the challenges, while they kind of fit that nature of introductory, there's some that scale up in difficulty. A lot of them it was just too much for a 2-day conference of this nature. So we kind of scaled it back a little bit and really reevaluated what we wanted to do and how we wanted to position the CTF. And one really excellent piece of feedback that we got was everything's way too offensive focused. There's no defensive challenges, there's no forensics, and there's nothing that you can just utilize like Google for, really. Other than getting walkthroughs and stuff, but there was nothing directly I can Google to get flag. So we kind of took a step back and we're like, okay, we definitely need to do web and binary exploitation. It's a CTF, those need to be there. But then we were thinking, well, let's do a forensics challenge. There's a lot of people that do blue teaming. There's a lot of people that sit in SOCs that are doing correlation rules and logging. So let's have some forensics challenges for those people so they can also get involved with the CTF and cat some points. And then when the OSINT CTF got accepted, it's like, that sounds really cool. That's all about open sourcing intelligence for missing people. We should also probably do an OSINT category for the CTF that's a little bit more gamified and a little bit silly. So if you go on the OSINT challenges, you'll actually see some pretty interesting stuff. I will say no more. You should check it out. I'd be amiss not to take Jessica's advice to give sponsorship an opportunity. So this year we had Mozilla once again sponsor our CTF infrastructure, and Daniel did a tremendous job with it. And he's gonna run up on stage to talk about it really quick. This is when you run up on stage. And he's going to talk about it a little bit. He was in Germany working on the infrastructure for us like the last 2 weeks. And he's like on vacation in Germany, and we're messaging, and it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Are you sure you want to do it? You're on vacation. He's like, no, this is awesome. I'm doing it. So he's going to talk about doing it.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Daniel. I work at Mozilla, and I just put a few bullet points here. This is super useful. I don't have to look over. I put a few bullet points here with some of the stuff that we set up. So we've got a Kubernetes cluster running in AWS utilizing the EKS service, which is great. A couple of simple things like using Calico for basically restricting network access, kube to IAM to kind of bind pods to certain roles in the account, RBAC enabled cluster, which is pretty normal. So yeah, a couple of things there to try to lock stuff down. But the main thing is that we want to really encourage everybody that participates in the CTF to see if they can break the cluster, break into it, maybe compromise the account, tell me what I did wrong. So that would be fantastic. And a note that I didn't put on here was regarding Mozilla's bug bounty program. So if anybody wants to, or if anybody does, attempt to break into the cluster or do anything like that, we'd love to hear submissions through Mozilla's bug bounty program. And if you have any questions, feel free to come talk to me. So.
What do you get?
Oh, yeah. So I actually don't know maybe you should make a comment here. But we have a number of...
Like a shirt?
I assume that we'll be doing paid bounties for different levels of compromising the cluster or the account, but I actually don't know the severity levels that we'll throw there.
It's dollars.
Yeah, not T-shirts. Well, maybe extra T-shirts.
Maybe Andrew will give you his T-shirt.
Yeah.
Cash money.
Cash money, hack the CTF.
Yeah, so please do it.
Hack the challenges and then hack the cluster, because once you hack a challenge, you're on the cluster.
Exactly. Yeah, you got access to that container, that pod, and yeah, see where you can get. So
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So there's also a big thanks that needs to go out to the dream team that I had behind me this year, writing the challenges and taking commands as to assigning people challenge categories. So big shout out to FD Carl. He wrote all of the web challenges for us this year. Huge shout out to Agalaga. Yeah, how is your handle pronounced?
I don't know.
Hey, Gallic is good. He did the binary exploitation challenges. They're freaking awesome. We have Dade that did all of the OSINT challenges for us. And then we have, I also don't know how to say this handle, Aaron? He's in the CTF room hacking on shit. Go find him. And then, of course, huge thanks to the Mozilla guys for sponsoring us yet again with the infrastructure. If you've been to BSides or you saw my talk last year or played CTF last year, you've heard that I'm a huge proponent for open sourcing CTF, both the infrastructure and the challenges. This is something that doesn't happen within the CTF community after the events are done. Typically, you'll get all of the binaries, and people will do write-ups, but there's never any how is this done, how is it orchestrated. So we publish all of our CTF, all of the solutions that we've came up with, all of the challenges, and all of the infrastructure deployments. So if you might not have the chance to play this weekend because you're doing the hallway track or seeing talks, go to the link. Everything is Docker composed, so you can run it locally on your Linux box or whatever your OS of choice is that works with Docker, and you can go and play. So definitely do that. Open sourcing CTFs is important. If you know people writing CTF stuff that aren't open sourcing it, yell at them and tell them they need to open source stuff because it's awesome. And of course, come to closing ceremonies. There's prizes. And with the Dream Team comment, if you want to be involved next year, either with planning, challenge writing, helping out doing the infrastructure stuff, tweet me, come talk to me. I would love to have more people writing stuff for us, so I have to do even less work next year. So yeah, come play. BSidesPDX CTF.party. Yeah, question.
Are you the person to complain to because the OSINT site is down and has been
What? It's down? Fix it. So I think we're almost running out of time, so I'm going to blast through the rest of this. We also have a lot of evening activities lined up for the event. So tonight at PASCAL, they're hosting the BSides after party. Doors open at 7. There'll be beer, non-alcoholic refreshments, appetizers, food. There's a couple of really rad events that they're hosting. So they're going to have a social engineering costume theme. You don't need to dress up if you don't want to, but it's cool. Wear a construction hat, a hard hat, and a name tag. There's also a wireless CTF that they're doing. That's going to be really fun, so definitely participate in that. There's also Saturday night at Control H. We're doing another happy hour party. Doors open again at 7 after closing ceremonies, and talk to a bunch of hackers, drink some beers or don't, and just hang out and chat with people. So that's the end of file, and now chatter can begin.
Also, if you notice the lanyards, they're different colors. So green lanyard's a speaker, black is attendee, red is a special volunteer, and orange is a volunteer. So if you have questions, look for the different colors.
We did it.
Yeah.